Bees. In our modern society, bees are overlooked and considered pests that must be exterminated. But many people don't realize how important they really are. They pollinate 70% of our produce, including things like almonds, cotton, and strawberries. They're also vital to our economy. They produce over $150 million in honey in the US every year. And not to mention the multiple cash crops that they pollinate all around the world. And even after everything they've done for us, we still overlook the fact that they are disappearing. And if we continue to neglect this worldwide problem, their disappearance act will take us with them.
My name is Crystal Watrous. I work at UC Riverside in the entomology department. I work in Dr. Hollis Woodard's lab, and we are a lab that specializes in pollinators, more specifically bumblebees. So we work on bumblebee nutrition and study various aspects of bumblebees and other bees and where they live and what they eat. I've always thought that small critters doing interesting things were really neat, and I mean, when you take the time to look at insects, a whole new world opens up because they're all busy doing lots of different important roles in our environment, and most people are too busy to even look.
Last year in 2015, commercial beekeepers lost up to 50% of their bee colonies. And the total bee population has dropped 60% since 1947. Now, people continue to ask, why? Why are bees disappearing? One of the most common reasons is something called colony collapse disorder, or CCD.
My name is Alex Muniz. I'm an environmental scientist, and I currently work producing a beneficial insect that attacks citrus pests. And I'm also a backyard beekeeper. So the decline in honeybee populations have been attributed to CCD, or colony collapse disorder. We don't know the mechanism that causes CCD, but there are many different pressures that contribute to it, such as pesticides, beekeeping practices, and malnutrition.
Since 2007, beekeepers reported unusually high losses from 30 to 90% of their bee colonies. 50% of them showed symptoms of CCD.
Well, as many people know, millions of beehives are used to actually pollinate crops throughout California and also in the United States. So if we have a massive amount of colonies that are collapsing, that really affects the number of pollinators that are going to be out there and pollinating our crops.
A study from Harvard School of Public Health claims that CCD is caused by various pesticides, including neonicotinoids, a pesticide that intoxicates and eventually kills the bees exposed to it. But CCD isn't the only thing that's harming bees. Parasites are also greatly affecting the pollinators' population, specifically the Varroa destructor, a parasite that attaches itself to the worker bee to get into the hive. Once it enters the hive, it spreads to all the other bees, making them sick, and eventually killing them.
So we actually have a postdoc in our lab, Michelle Duenas, who is studying parasites and pathogens in bumblebees. We recently went up to Alaska and collected a bunch of bumblebees north of Fairbanks, and she's going to be doing a project looking specifically at some of the viruses and some of the pathogens that the bees may or may not have. We actually don't even know that far away from a lot of managed agriculture if some of the pathogens are up there in the bee populations or not. Right now, the main things affecting the bees are habitat change. So if we take a field of wildflowers and plow it under to make it a field for human food, or make it into a parking lot or houses, those are all aspects that are affecting where the bees can nest and also where they can find food. So that's one main aspect. Also just availability of resources. So plow under the flowers and they have nothing to eat.
Climate change also affects them. It forces them to migrate out of their natural habitat and stay away from rising heats. Now you may be wondering, what happens if they do disappear? Well, the effects are more detrimental than most people realize, because 70% of our produce will either die out or have to be pollinated by hand.
So there'd be no more pollination from bees, which means less yields from the crops that we're trying to produce. So that means less food and potential higher prices of food.
There would also be a massive change in our diets, now mainly consisting of corn, rice, and wheat, as well as other wind-pollinated crops.
Bees are really important for us specifically in food production. So about a third of the food that we eat is a direct result of bees pollinating flowers, and those flowers then making fruits or seeds that are part of our diet. Think blueberries, apples, all the tree fruits.
There would also be a massive decrease in the population of livestock because of the shortage of bees that pollinate crops such as alfalfa that go into animal feed. So what can we do?
There are a few different things we can do to help the bees and keep them from disappearing. One thing is just considering our own personal uses of insecticides and chemicals in the environment. So if you have a house or are living in a place where maybe people are spraying insecticides to keep the grass from having bugs in it, maybe toning that down, because actually a lot of chemical overuse in the US is through homeowners who over-apply insecticides trying to keep their property nice and neat.
Farmers can start planting cover crops in between their cash crops to provide resources for the bees used in agriculture. We can also start planting native plants and flowers to supply nutrients and food for local bees.
Well, as a beekeeper myself, I think a lot of people have started to become a backyard beekeeper as a hobby. My coworker actually had bees in his wall inside his house. So, well, there was a hole outside, and so the bees decided to start using it as a hive. And so I decided to extract them. So I started looking up bees and how to do it properly, because we didn't want to kill them. And so that's how I first started. And I think I have about going on 4 years as a beekeeper now. Yeah. I do try to inform people about bees. Usually when somebody meets me, if they ask me what I do as a hobby, I always mention beekeeping, and it always starts a conversation as to why I like bees and how, or why I'm interested in bees. So it's pretty cool just to inform people.
Bees are just all over the place. If most flowers didn't have bees for pollination, they wouldn't be able to reproduce and they would die out.
Most people don't realize the importance of bees. Without them, our world would be empty, lifeless, colorless. But it's not too late. We have one last chance to preserve not only the bees' future, but our very own.